What would you say is the biggest stigma or the biggest misconception when one is going through divorce?
If you really like the person, like I spent many years liking the person.
Okay.
It's like a death in a way, because you don't want it to be over, but you know it has to be over. My life changed the moment I realized that there was no rescue coming. I had to be my own rescue. There was no knight in shining armor coming. And if he did, he deserved the best version of me as well.
Yeah.
So that when you realize you are your own rescue, that's when things start to open up and change, and you can really make decisions that you can be proud of.
Every day a woman
You're watching Trish Stanley TV. Today we have my friend. We go back 10 years. She was actually one of our first guest on Style with Trish back in 2014. She's here, she's an author now, and she is our guest talking about redeeming yourself after divorce. Her name is Janine Farrell. Stay tuned, you're gonna love this episode.
every day a woman
You're watching Trish Stanley TV.
It's time to live your dreams. Nothing's gonna stop you now.
You're watching Trish Stanley TV.
Keep going, keep going. Every day a woman reigns.
You're watching Trish Stanley TV, where the everyday woman reigns.
Every day a woman reigns.
Hey guys, this is Trish Stanley, and I'm sitting here with my very special guest, Janine Farrell. It's so funny because we were talking offset
Yes.
of the many years we've been collected, but you know we've never met.
Physically met.
Yes, but
No.
it's been 10 years
Yes.
plus since we connected on social media. That's why,
Yes.
guys, social media, if you use it for what you use it for, what it's meant for, it can really come out for your benefit. And to my benefit, she's here hanging out with me on today. You're an author. Just share a little bit about who you are and where you reign from.
First of all, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes, I am an author. I am a divorce recovery coach and a motivational speaker. And so what I do is with my book, I coach women on how to move forward after something as life-changing as divorce.
Yeah.
And move forward and be happy, not just move forward and moving in, on autopilot, but really living your life and recreating a life that you could be proud of.
Yeah, and you're also a mental health advocate.
Yes.
I need to talk to you about that on something offline. And the name of your company is Crowned Elite.
Crowned Elite.
And I always ask people, why did you name one of your babies Crowned Elite? Why that name?
When I was going through the worst period of my life, like right after the divorce, just trying to figure everything out, I've always had this, it reminds me of what you have over here, a crown statue that was just on my desk. And every day I would just have to look at it. It just reminded me okay, you are a queen. No matter what you're going through, you wear your crown, you wear it straight, you wear it proudly, you cry in private. But, here now, this is your crown. And so I just wanted to carry that over into my brand.
Yeah.
Just allowing women to know that no matter what you're going through, you are a queen. And we wear the crown straight and proud.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We met 10 years ago, as I stated. You were one of the very first guests when my show was titled Style with Trish.
Yes.
And do you remember the topic? What we
were talking about coupons. At that time, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was spending my days couponing and finding deals and things like that. And so that's what we were talking about then.
And you were a queen of it, and I wanted to have you on because you had a whole science to it.
I had a whole science and system to it, yes.
Yeah, it was amazing. So look at what the years have brought us.
Yes.
I had to mention that. But the name of your book is The Girl's Guide to Life After Divorce. It's my journey to self-recovery to self-discovery.
Yes.
Break that down. That's deep right there.
So The Girl's Guide to Life After Divorce is my journey to self-discovery. What I realized is that the divorce wasn't really about him. And a lot of people, I think when they saw the book, they thought it was like a tell-all or airing it out. It's not about him at all. It's really about me and finding myself after and figuring out who I am. What do I like? what am I good at? What do I like to do? What's my favorite color?
Right. Yeah, you mentioned
You know,
that.
what do I
Yeah.
want to do in my life? So that the book is really about what I feel are my 14 steps on moving forward. The things that I learned the hard way. I'm very honest. There are some things that, you know, my daughter read it and was like, Mama, you said that? Yeah, because it's true.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I shouldn't have dated early. You know, I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. So it's just a very honest take on what I feel were my keys to moving forward.
Yeah. And what did you find therapy in that? Because I know you stated
yes.
that you started this book, you started this journey off of journaling. Share
Yes.
that. Expound on that.
Going through the process, it's really hard to talk to people who don't really understand it. They're supportive, they love you, they encourage you, but they don't really understand it.
Yeah.
And so I started journaling. And then on top of journaling, I started a Facebook group called The Girl's Guide to Life After Divorce.
Oh,
That's where
okay.
the name of the book came from. But the point of the group, I was like, I need a safe space to be able to say like everything I need to say without being judged or without people close to me even knowing what I'm going through.
Right.
So it started with like 5 members of just people I knew that had been divorced. And we would just chat in there and share things in there. And then it just grew like right today we're at about 40,000 members.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just took off. And that's when I was like, this is the book. Like everything I've been journaling about, everything we talk about in this group, like I have to put this together and just show what my steps are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that includes therapy, you know, real therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of people try to go
Absolutely.
around that.
Yeah.
But that's important.
And you were sharing about how I want to start back at the beginning here in a second, but you were sharing how, especially the amount of years that you were married, your lives are so intertwined.
Yes.
And so to get through the, you know, that's coming apart, then you are sitting and wondering who you are. But your personal story, you get married young.
Yes.
Share your marriage journey.
Sure. I was married at 19. We were both 19 children.
Yeah.
College students just struggling. And I think it was more of a trauma bond that just we were both just struggling kids trying to make it, and we found just that in each other. And I won't say like it was a terrible marriage and we had all the, it wasn't. For a very long time, I considered this person like my best friend. We did everything together. I didn't really have a life outside of marriage and my children. So when, you know, you get married at 19 and then 17 years later, you're 37 and here comes a divorce that you didn't see coming. It just puts you in a place of like, my whole life is gone.
Yeah. Especially when you were in it for so long and so young, you're thinking this is my forever.
Yes.
You don't go, and I hope you're not thinking going in that, you know, this is going to end in divorce, but it's that just a natural expectation that you have. This is forever.
And that was even like an inside joke we had in the house. Like, no matter what, like,
we'll
wake up.
Nowhere.
We ain't going nowhere. You know, but life is real. And sometimes you have to make those hard decisions, you know, when it comes down to it, like, okay, this is not working.
What would you say is the biggest stigma or the biggest misconception when one is going through divorce? For me, I've never gone through my divorce. My parents were divorced, but I was too young to really see the whole picture of that. What would be something that people who have not experienced it, what's a misconception? I can kind of help you in one area. For me, I would think that, okay, I'm getting out of something that I really desire to be out of, so it's somewhat joyful. But I'm hearing in most cases, it's probably one of the hardest things that most have done.
It's terrible because even when you make the decision to get a divorce, if you really like the person, like I spent many years liking the person.
Okay.
It's like a death in a way because you don't want it to be over, but you know it has to be over. So it's like you're going through this. And then I think what a lot of people don't realize too is how many other people it affects.
Yeah.
You know, you have the kids, it affects them.
Yes.
You know, they're struggling in school. They're mentally struggling with the decision. They don't understand. You have family and friends who you have formed a full circle family with. And now you're saying, okay, well, we're split. Y'all go your way. Y'all go your way. And you don't want to.
Right.
I developed real bonds with my ex-husband's family.
Yeah.
Real bonds.
Yeah.
You know, so
what do you do with that now in hindsight?
at first it was a struggle because you go to family events because you're invited, but then you're like, should I be here?
Yeah, you feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Should I?
Yeah.
But once I realized that, and this took years for me, two things can be true at one time.
Okay.
Yes, we were supposed to get a divorce. Yes, we loved each other. Our families love each other still to this day. And it's okay to continue those relationships. They may not look exactly the same.
Yeah.
But it's okay for me to pick up the phone and say, Auntie, I still love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. Everyone doesn't have to get the same divorce.
Right. Right.
You know, but it took years for me to get there and feel comfortable enough to be able to make those calls without feeling weird.
So what was you said you have 14 steps that you think that everyone should, all 14, go through all 14, or is it?
In the intro of the book, I say, these are in no particular order.
Okay.
And they may not all apply to you. But these were the things that I've come across in the last 9 years that I want to share, because at some point you're probably going to come across them.
Yeah. So give us a couple of those points.
Sure. One of my favorites is, girl, get those boundaries in place.
Now break that down. What is that? I mean, I know what it means, but break it down for us.
So when I first got a divorce, we had this idea that we would be able to function as friends right away.
Okay.
That doesn't work all the time because there are certain boundaries that I should have set early on that would have helped me later on.
Yeah.
Because when you sometimes say, we'll be friends, that gives an access that he probably shouldn't still have. He shouldn't be able to come by.
Yeah, just drop in.
Unannounced.
Yes.
Yeah. Or call any time of night.
Yeah.
Or there's just a lot of things that if you don't set boundaries in the beginning, when you do get to the point where you're trying to entertain another relationship or just being single, you know, it gets interrupted, you know, when your phone is going off at 2 a.m. It's like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And so getting your boundaries in place, whatever those look like for you,
Yeah.
that's just what it looked like for me. And then also, are you ready to date or no? It's very important.
What is that supposed to look like? Like, how do you, because we kind of look down on people who get divorced and then next we know they was messing around all along.
Right.
But how long is too long?
Right. And that there's no real answer, but to know it for yourself. For me, it was more of an ego thing. It was more, I'm divorced. I've been through this tumultuous thing and my self-esteem is shot. And I just want to know, you still think somebody thinks I'm cute?
You're right.
You want to take me on a date? Let's go. You know, so for me, that's what it was, but I was not ready.
Oh, okay. So you went out a little too soon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to remember, I got married at 19. When you get married so young, you don't really have anything to pull from before that. So I went in very green. My mindset was, all men are great. This just didn't work out. And so when you go in, which is okay.
Yeah.
But when you go in, like you get to be the target sometime of people who don't have the best intentions for you.
Yeah.
So you have to learn.
And I was just thinking, you just made me think of you married when you were 19. It's the dating world is a whole different world now.
It's very
prior to, and then you didn't have a lot of experience in those early years, so I can imagine how.
Oh yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
What they say is the dating pool is like pee water.
It's pee in the water. That's what they say.
so I can imagine, you know, and that's just today. That's with no matter how long you've been married, dating in itself
is hard
today. Is definitely difficult.
Right. It's very
So
hard.
let's talk about your children and how, and we're going to come up with some other pointers here in a second, but how was it that and you mentioned your babies briefly, how is it, or what's the best method to introduce the topic of mommy and daddy's divorcing, and then how do you, counseling, of course, I didn't get counseling when my parents divorced, it probably would have been helpful, but what do we do with our children? Because it's a severing of their whole world.
Yes. It is. Looking back, I did a lot of things that I would do differently.
Okay.
We sat them down and talked to them all like as a collective. And my oldest at the time, I think she was 13.
Okay.
She had a little better
that's
of
a pivotal age.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. She had a little better of an understanding
Right.
as to what was going on. My 8-year-old she was 8. She took it hard. She struggled in school. She acted out a little bit. The school was calling me, and I'm going through this, so I'm frustrated with her. I'm like, everything I got going on, and the school's calling me because you wore slippers to school. You know, it's like
she going through too.
Yes, everyone's going through.
Yeah.
Everyone is going through in their own way. And looking back, I should have gotten them therapy. I didn't. I did it for myself, but I didn't do it for my children. So anyone that's going through that, I would definitely say, like, maybe consider therapy for your children as well.
Yeah.
Just give them a voice, because
Yeah.
they don't have a voice in the decision that you made, you know, and they're watching
Everything. It's like, my daughter was maybe 10 years old. I'm my husband's second wife. And so I have bonus sons.
Right.
And she was about 10 years old when she realized, you're not Ed Jr. and Eric's mom? No. You know, and so I'm thinking, okay, well, you should automatically know this.
No.
But they don't know. It's you have to look at it through their eyes. And I know that now, thankfully, getting help and going and talking to professionals is now more acceptable than it was previous years. But we do have to consider sitting down and having conversations and having those tough conversations with our children, as well as getting them help if they feel they need it.
Yes. And another thing, you just reminded me, one of the major things, and my 8-year-old at the time taught me this, be honest with them.
Yes.
Be honest with them. I used to sugarcoat, and I would just kind of say things. She would ask me direct questions, and I'd dance all over it. And one day, she just came to me. She was like, "Can just tell me the truth?" I felt terrible.
She knew it already.
Even when I started like trying to date, like I would go on a date, but I would say, "Oh, I'm just going out with my friends."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Are you going on a date?" She's like, "Just tell me the truth." And I'm like, she deserves the truth.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt her.
Yeah.
It's actually freeing us all.
Right.
Like, this is the truth.
Right.
And so I would encourage anybody going, just tell your kids the truth.
Yeah. It's really, it's a tough, from a kid's perspective, it's really, even as we get older, you know, and my dad is now deceased, but with the family thing is where I'm going. My mother kept us joined at the hip with his family.
Yeah.
And so every summer we was with my grandparents, you know, and things of that nature. But I still, up until the man died, did I seek out counseling to get healed from a lot of stuff, you know, and he was deadbeat, you know, I was around his family more than he was around any of us, all of us. But you still have to have that counseling. So it's never too late is what I'm saying. It's never too late. And he, I'm sure, is a great dad and in relationship with them. But they still need that. Right. They're still going to need that. So I love that you're open to them.
And that brings up another point, I'm sorry, but also recognizing that the man that you're divorcing is not their father. It's two different men.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Yes, I just got it.
Yes.
Say it again.
The man that you are divorcing and you are so angry with and you have all of these negative feelings for, it's not the same man as their father. He's a good father. He's a great father in some ways. He has his own issues to bear and to deal with when it comes to his children. I had to understand that's not the same person. So I can't take what I'm feeling about you and how terrible of a husband at times you may have been. It's not who you were as a father.
And you know, you brought up a point, because I've seen so many women say, how can you go, I guess the men have cheated or whatever, and you know, you're going out and you're not just cheating on me, you're cheating on your children. No, he's just cheating on you. And we do have to separate the two, because there are a lot of men that are awesome husbands and terrible fathers. And there are men who are wonderful dads, the best dads, and make horrible husbands. So we do have to separate the two. And I think that is very fair of you to say, and I love that. I honor that you say that, because what leads to what happens in a lot of situations and when it comes to our children is we badmouth.
Yeah.
And we don't realize what that does, what it's doing. I grew up in a situation, not my personal situation, because my mother would never let us talk about that deadbeat. We had to come to that conclusion as an adult.
Right.
But as children, she never let us badmouth him. But I've been around other persons who were going through this process, and they badmouth. And then when the children got older, they didn't even resent the parent that was being badmouthed. They resent the parent that was doing the bad mouthing.
Yes.
So we have to be careful in that. So I love that you put honor where honor is due.
Even when it's hard.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, even when it's really hard.
I'm sure. It's hard not to vent.
Yeah. I had to learn to vent in other ways and to other people.
Yeah.
But to them, I have to be mom, and that's your dad. You know, I can say what I need to say about him if I have to elsewhere.
Yeah.
But not to you.
Yeah. Two different worlds. I love that.
different worlds.
So what's another point out of the 14 that we can expect to receive from in your book?
The first one is, who am I? The most important is really figuring out, okay, once the paperwork is signed and here we are, now what? The first question is like, who am I?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that, then none of these points work, because the first person you have to deal with is
Yeah.
and that's the good, bad, the ugly, the great, the beautiful, like me recognizing like I really like myself.
Yeah.
Like outside of that marriage, like I am pretty
Fly.
I got style, you know. There was just things that I had to recognize about myself. There were bad things too.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I do lack order.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, maybe I do. Maybe I need to see someone for my depression. Things like that. But outside of that, it's like, okay, what do I like? What do I want to do in my life?
Yeah.
What do I want my legacy to be? Because it's really hard when you've built a life with someone. You've planned things down to your retirement.
Yes.
I was supposed to retire in Ecuador with this man.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
Do I really want to go to Ecuador? No.
Well, you know, we were talking off set where we had an interior designer on a couple seasons ago, and she said that was part of her services. She would come in with couples divorced.
Yes.
And because you had mentioned also, you said you didn't even know what your favorite color was anymore.
Right.
And she would revamp the person's house, because when you're living together, you're cohabitating, there's things that even about your home that, okay, well, I have to let him have some say in this, or I have to have her say in this. And then who am I outside of him?
Outside of this. And your children.
And your children.
Because sometimes even in the marriage and outside of you get a divorce, you pour into your kids. Then what happens when they're 18 and they're off to college? Now you're really sitting.
You're like, oh my God.
You have no life.
You know, you and I, we have a lot in common. Our girls went to the same school, graduated the same year.
Yes.
And that was, even though I do what I do, I used to sing and I'm doing this. I stay busy. I know how to stay busy. It's still traumatic.
It is.
So I can imagine if I'm doing, and I only have one, but I put everything into her. I supported her in all her likes and loves and all of that. But at the same time, when they leave home, you're like, what am I going to do? I'm like, Trish, you gotta have a show. Do your show, you know. But I can't imagine if I didn't have anything outside of that.
Any hobbies of your own,
Yeah.
or things that you know you liked to do at one point, but you put yourself on the back burner, you know, to make sure everyone's okay. And that's what you think your job is.
Yeah.
You know, we do it naturally.
Yeah.
Naturally. But I realize my kids deserve like a really good version of me.
Yes. The best version.
The best version of me.
Yeah.
You know, and they deserve that, because if I can be that for myself, then it's no issue when we're out in public. I can genuinely have a good time and my mind isn't elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, so
you're fully engaged.
I'm fully present.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Fully present.
Yeah.
So,
but I want to thank you for coming and hanging out with me. But before we go, you know, you got to leave us with some very encouraging words. I think that anyone who's going through something life-altering like that, because this is truly life-altering, the severing of long ties,
yes.
To seek out someone that's, like you said, even everyone can't afford, you know, to go to counselors and all of that. But you have a Facebook group.
Yes.
Share that information. Share where we can locate and purchase your book. But also leave us with some inspiring words to get help.
Sure, yes. Okay, so if you are on Facebook, the group is called The Girl's Guide to Life After Divorce. It's the same title as the book. And it's 40,000 women just like you who understand what you're going through. I also have a personal website, www.CoachJanineF.com.
Okay.
And that's where you can find books, services. Anytime I do public appearances, everything will be there. And
You also
then
have journals too,
I
right?
do have journals. One is out currently, and I'm working on the second one. So the journals are to help you discover who you are,
Okay.
help you to create acts of gratitude daily, even though you're going through so much. There are things to be grateful for. And if I can leave you with anything, it's that my life changed the moment I realized that there was no rescue coming. I had to be my own rescue. There was no knight in shining armor coming. And if he did, he deserved the best version of me as well.
Yeah.
So that when you realize you are your own rescue, that's when things start to open up and change, and you can really make decisions that you can be proud of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
For this journey. All of these years we've kind of coexisted
Right.
alongside. I'm so glad we were able to
Yes.
connect our paths, that our paths were able to connect here personally.
Yes.
I do want to talk to you about an event I have coming up. I
Okay.
want you to possibly sit on a
Yes.
panel and be our mental health advocate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Guys, stay tuned. We'll have more with Janine Farrell. We'll be right back.
Every day a woman reigns.
You're watching Trish Stanley TV, where the everyday woman reigns.
Every day a woman reigns.
Hey guys, welcome to this special edition of Surviving Divorce. I'm here sitting with my friend, Tawanda Fair. We talk so much offset, and you're newly divorced. And so I wanted you to share your story because everything is so fresh for you. And when did you know? I'm going to start you out here, but I kind of want you to free flow with your story. But when did you know that your marriage was coming to an end? What was that experience? What were you experiencing? And just kind of flow from there to where we are today, 2 years after the fact.
Well, to be honest, I think we clashed a lot about simple stuff. Simple to me. Things of me loving the kids more than I love you, and just not evolving. You know, I evolved. I think I became very fearless in my marriage. I became where I was scared, tired of being afraid to do this and afraid to do that. You want to go somewhere on a trip, but then you're scared to get on a plane. You want to go on a cruise, but you're scared to get on a ship. So
not fear that he would not like it, but just you were just living in fear.
I was just living in fear, period,
Okay.
because of my own fears.
Okay.
You know, my own being insecure about my own self, you know. So, and one thing, you know, when you've been molested, I was molested as a child, that kind of closed you off. You know, it kind of closed you off. But with me wanting to be better, I started doing the work. I knew I wasn't going to change. Things weren't going to change for me. I couldn't stay in that space of, you know, oh, woe is me, what happened to me, you know, it wasn't my fault. I got help.
Yeah.
And me starting with myself, I always believe in marriage counseling. I've always believed in that. I've always believed in what the saying, to death do us part.
Yes.
Well, I learned a different meaning to death do us part. I feel like we really just grew apart. And I think a lot of that too was growth because of, you know, growth, a lack of, one may feeling neglected or both in some in areas. I feel like sometimes as a woman, over exceeding, doing too much. You know, God told me to do this. He didn't tell you to go that far.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like a lot of that happened in my marriage with me just certain things that I allowed because my heart being involved in love and being with someone your whole life. Literally, we was teenagers, kids.
Because you were married for how long?
I was married. It would have been 2022, December the 4th, 2022. We would have been married 29 years.
Wow.
It would have been a full 29 years. That's a long time to be with someone from childhood
Yes.
all the way up to your adulthood. You literally did life together. You literally grew up together from being, what? We were friends. We started out being friends before we was in a real relationship. 12, 13 years old.
Wow.
That part.
Yeah.
You know, and to be with one person.
So what was a heartbreak for you? What was the final heartbreak? Because, you know, I say on the show all the time, each women, us as women, we all have a finish line where we're just finished in specific things. The finish line may be longer for me or closer for me than yours because we're different.
Right.
What was your finish line, and how did you know? Because they say once a woman is done, and that is so true.
You
Once a
better
woman
say
done,
that.
a woman is
You can
done.
still be in it, honey. You done.
And you can be in it and still be done.
And still be done, and you just working on how you gonna get out. One thing about us as women, we strategize. What's the next move when I get up out of here? Well, the done was when you the total disrespect,
Okay.
the mental and emotional and physical abandonment. Not just for me, but for our children as well. And to not show up, no matter what,
Yeah.
all bets off.
That was it. It was the babies.
All bets off.
Yeah.
But a lot of that, the mental and the emotional and some physical abuse, just also outside of the marriage, you know, being outside of the marriage and interacting in things that you shouldn't have been in, spaces you shouldn't have been in. Just not really knowing how to accept me for changing, because I used to get a lot of, you're not the person I married. I don't know you. You different. You that. Well, of course. And I was not going to change that.
Yeah.
Because that was for me.
Yeah.
And I did my work. Meaning I went to therapy. I did counseling with our pastor. I did therapy. And I need to do that for me.
Yeah.
And at first, honestly, I was doing it for the marriage.
Okay.
And I realized I had my own trauma, my own issues that had nothing to do with him. So what I may expected from him, he couldn't give me because I needed to be able to give it to myself.
Yeah, right.
And mainly to love myself in overload, to let myself know I really do matter, you know, and that I am valuable. And whatever my insecurities was, I always thought I was too skinny. So when I gained weight, I was like, oh, I like that, you know. But those are insecurities in being a molested child, you know. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. And when I had to literally deal with that situation, that happened. My grandmother, my mom's mom, who's like a second mother to me, passed away from multiple myeloma cancer. And that sent me mentally in a different state of my mind.
Yeah.
And me dealing with my own stuff. It made me vulnerable. And that was in 2009. And I remember watching on TV, because at that point I had lost my job. I had been on this drapery company for about 12 years. And they laid us off. And I was kind of okay with that, but I wasn't, because I was used to working.
Right.
So that kind of sent me in a way.
So you had a double whammy,
Yeah.
basically.
And then my grandmother being sick.
Yeah.
And literally being there, I took 2 weeks off before the layoff. I took 2 weeks off to be with my grandmother every day. And that really, that ripped my heart out for my grandmother to passed away, and you know, for us to be so very, very close. So that did a number on me. And then after that, then I lost my job, and then I was sitting in a reclining chair, my grandmother's reclining chair in my room, and I was watching Tyler Perry on Oprah for the first time talk about being molested, and I don't know why, but it just I was emotionally that did a number. So I was like, okay, I hear you, God. I need to deal with myself before I can deal with any issues, you know, in this marriage. I'm gonna have to figure out how to separate this from this. You know, I can't deal with this because some of this is probably because of this.
That, right.
So for me, so I decided that I knew I needed to go get me some help. And he used to tell me that you need to go get you some help. You need to deal with your issues. Well, I used to say that too. And then until I did, and when I did, it unlocked the doors. Literally going through that process. I went through that process. Started with our pastor, doing my counseling, and he had it where I would come every week, once a week, and for a minute I stopped. I stopped because I had did it years ago. I started and then I quit. The pain was too much for me to do that, and I just quit. So I'm going somewhere with that, and then I realized in 2009 God said, listen, you need to go help your own self. You know, you looking for something from him that obviously he don't have to give. But what do you have to give to you? So during that process, he had this, he did a class where you go through this whole process of grieving. And that was
unresolved grief is something else.
Unresolved grief. One thing I learned with going to one of my aunts, thank God she'd been drug-free for a long time now, but you can't heal because if you got pain and you don't heal that, it's gonna make you sick.
It's gonna manifest in other areas.
It makes you sick in your entire your body. Different things happen. You get high blood pressure, diabetes, all kind of things happen. But the biggest thing is your mental health, the mental part of having to process. I didn't want to deal with that. But when I did, I started shedding coats, literally layers, and just got to the point where
that's where he didn't recognize you.
He did not. Nope. And he was glad that I was getting the help for myself. He really was, because I think it helped me to just kind of calm down and not be, at certain times, I may be angry. You know, that went back to, I think the show we was on when we was talking about the menopause, but all those went together. But even talking about that, but just me going through my help of my own mental and dealing with that pain right there. Also, my dad, you know, my dad and I have always been pretty close. I got a cool dad. But my dad was in prison my whole life. So therefore, I'm looking for something in this man.
That's a grief. That's a grief as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
In this man, that I was looking for protection, you know, love, you know, compassion from a male. I didn't have that. You know, my dad wasn't there in that area, but whenever he was around, he gave me that. But he never taught. My dad never talked to me ugly. He never talked bad to me. So I didn't get that from that. But
you didn't know what to expect.
I did not know what to expect. And to be able to be in a marriage, not really having a real true foundation in my house of what marriage looked like, I went off what I saw in my aunts and how they did and nurtured and this and this with marriage. But I did not grow up in that.
So
in my house.
We have a couple of minutes left. So what would you say, coupled with the counseling and getting to know you and to heal you, because you're only 2 years in from being divorced. What has been the greatest realization for you? What is the rebirth of Tawanda after 29 years of marriage, and going into this next phase and this new you?
Freedom. Identifying with who I am. Getting to know me outside of being the mother, the wife. You know, outside of whatever titles that come along with that, being somebody's daughter, somebody's close cousin, that a nurturer, all of those things, those are titles, but just identifying my relationship with God and grounding and centering and just knowing what's in here for you.
Connecting with that.
Connecting with what's in here for me, loving me on a whole nother level that I didn't even know I could. But that was after I started shedding the coats. And being in the marriage, I started therapy because it got really bad. The last 10 years was horrible. It was. And going through that, I started my counseling back. I started therapy. I started back doing therapy, and while I was in it. Because when I'm out of it, praying my way out of it, because it definitely gets you all rooted and grounded into your relationship with God. Like it grounds you. If you have not been grounded, listen, anybody who's married, please, if it's not surrounded by God, if that's not your foundation, I'm begging you to go and seek that for yourself individually first. So that you would know who you are. Because if you don't do that, you're going to go, we all go into relationships with something, our own baggage. But work on healing your own baggage. Before you could try to heal. You can do
it
that.
in the constraints of your marriage.
You can do that. But it takes two. You have to be a team. You have to cleave. You have to codependent on each other in that area. As long as God in the center of that, though. So what I did, that's not what he really wanted. You know, he didn't really want to do the therapy. He didn't want to do that anymore. He said it didn't work for him. It worked for me, though.
And that's the bottom line.
And that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
So
we gotta go.
There we go.
We gotta go. Because we can talk about this all
You got
day.
that right.
But I loved your story, and I wanted you to share that journey on this particular topic, because there's so many of us, unfortunately, that are not myself, but there are so many out here who are battling, do I stay, do I go? Or those who have gone. And now they're like, well, what do I do now with me in this time, in this space? And so I think you're an awesome example of someone to follow and someone to glean from if you're going through that.
I'm going to be honest. I feel amazing. I'm fearless. I am very in tune with who I am. I feel the power of God because I allow him to move me. I allow him to manifest in me. I allow him to talk to me. I allow him to get into my feelings and in my soul, so I won't be all in myself. I want to die so he can live in me. And that changed the whole game. It changes the whole game.
But thank you for hanging out with me, girl.
Thank you. It's always good hanging out with you, girl.
Guys, we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Every day a woman reigns.
You're watching Trish Stanley TV, where the everyday woman reigns.
Every day a woman reigns.
I would like to thank my guest today, Janine Farrell. She is such a beautiful spirit. I love her willingness and her openness to really share her journal and her story with us. Divorce is not always easy to talk about. Trust me, I'm a kid of divorce, and so I understand both aspects of it to a certain extent. But I love how she shared her journey and her story, and it opened it up so much for me. And look, guys, she left me with a beautiful gift, a journal. So make sure, if the book doesn't bless you, make sure you pick up this journal. It will also be a blessing to you in your journey to healing. Thank you guys for joining us today. Love isn't love unless you give it away.